Hello, I'm James Thorne and I'm a tutor on the Jacked Greek Summer School. And in this video, we're going to be looking at third declension nouns. Now, third declension nouns are similar to first and second declension nouns in that they have to show whether they're singular or plural and what case they are by their ending. However, what makes them different is that the stem is not consistent all the way through the table. So, whereas the majority of forms are based on the full stem, what I'll call the full stem, which in the case of pous, foot, the full stem is pod, while most of the forms are based on the full stem, the nominative singular and the dative plural can be slightly different. That means that whenever you look up a third declension noun, you're going to be given both the nominative singular and the genitive singular. And that allows you to derive the stem as follows. Take the genitive singular, knock off the genitive singular ending, and then what remains is your full stem, in this case, pod. Now, this means effectively learning two parts for each noun, but don't worry. There's often English derivations from both the nominative singular and from the full stem. So in this example, we get octopus, 8 feet, octopus, octopus, from the nominative, and then we get words like tripod and bipod from the full stem. So there's plenty of help with learning both bits, but you do need to learn both bits. So let's have a look at the endings then. In the accusative singular, we've got alpha, podda, just have to learn that, I'm afraid. In the genitive singular, we've got os, podos, of the foot, so to learn that as well. In the dative, okay, this can be slightly helpful. The dative singular ending in iota, poddi, if you've learnt Latin, then that really makes sense as a dative singular ending. Similarly, if you've learnt Latin, then podes, epsilon sigma, that's going to make loads of sense as a third declension plural, nominative plural. What will be less sensible will be podas in the accusative plural. One thing that might help you to remember podas and podda as accusatives is they both have an alpha in, and alpha could be used to spell accusative. Podon is the genitive plural. This is really just exactly the same as the genitive plurals in the first and second declension, a great help to anyone learning Greek. And the dative plural ends C with a nu if there is the end of a sentence or a vowel following. Now, what has happened here is that the delta sound, the d of pod, can't really stand in front of a s sound, and that means it's disappeared. So they would have perhaps tried to say podsin, found it difficult to say, and so say possin instead. And an explanation of a similar sort applies to the nominative singular. Now, you may wish to just stop the video at this point and commit those to memory. Okay, so here are some questions on pous. So for each sentence, you've got an English sentence and then the beginning of a translation, and you've got two gaps where you are expected to provide the definite article and the form, the correct form of pous. Okay, so let's do one together. The goddess sets the foot free. hetea lue. Now it's going to be accusative, surely. So it's going to be ton. And can you remember the accusative? Pod. What was the ending? Ton poda. Okay. I will give you a second to think about what those should be. Stop the video by all means, and then we will go through the answers. Okay, so the goddess sets the foot free. Hetea lue ton poda. The foot is big. Okay, this is just with a verb to be, so it's going to be a nominative, isn't it? So this will be ho pus. Hoppus megas estin. I hear the sound of feet, So the sound is accusative, but the of feet, surely this requires a genitive plural. So I hear the sound of feet is going to be ton podon. So ten ton podon ponen akuo. Okay, hopefully you got those all right. Some more examples here. Again, you can pause the video now and I'll come back with the answers when you restart. Okay, number 4 then. The girl drives the sheep with her foot. We need a dative here. It's a dative of instrument. So it's going to be toy poddy. Hepais laune ta probata toy poddy. Number 5, the feet do not speak. Now the feet are the subject here, so nominative plural. Hoi podes u legusin. And then number 6, the feet are the object here, aren't they? So it will be accusative, megalus podas echo. So very similar to pus is pais. This means a child. It could mean a boy or a girl, in which case it has the relevant definite article. So hopais is masculine as a boy. Hairpais, feminine is a girl. And as you can see, it follows exactly the same pattern as pus. So there's the endings a, os, I, S, as, on, C. And the same thing where the delta is gone from there and does not feature in the nominative singular. Okay, slightly different example. Care, this means hand. Now, the interesting thing about this is that let's derive the full stem. Do you remember how it worked? Take the genitive singular, knock off os, and there is your full stem. The interesting thing about this is that the full stem and the nominative are the same as each other. Now, this can happen also in Latin. Think of nouns like imperator and mercator, which also end with a r sound. So, can you remember the endings? Care is nominative singular. What will the accusative singular be? Sound it out. Era, that's right. Then keros, we already know, is given at the top. What will the dative be? Can you remember? Care e. The nominative plural, what will it be? Care s. Accusative should be easy. Careus. Genitive care on. And dative, what should it be? Notice the stem has shortened a bit to care. Care sin. Good. Okay, so everything I've said so far applies to masculine and feminine nouns, but for neuter nouns, the situation is slightly different. We're going to look at onoma, which means name. Now, the nominative obviously is onoma. What is the accusative? Now, what comes into play here is a rule which applies in many languages, actually, which is that accusative neuters are the same as their nominatives. Therefore, it is onoma again. Now, you already will have met this rule in the second declension, I would imagine. Think of second declension neuters like zdoion and doron. Zdoion, it can be both a nominative and accusative, as can doron. And it's the same here with onoma. You do not know whether it's nominative or accusative just to look at it. Now, the genitive behaves itself, and there it is at the top of the slide. It's on onomatos, and then the dative is onomati. And then what about the plural? Now, you learned before that the plural was epsilon sigma, like paides and podes. Well, that's not the case here. Think back to the second declension, stoion again. The neuters in the second declension had an alpha as their plural, and it's just the same here. So it's onomata, and then the rule about the nominative and accusative being the same applies just as much in the plural as it did in the singular. So it's onomata again, and then onomaton. So that's behaving itself. That's just the same as paidon and podon and keron and all the rest of them. And then what about the dative plural? Well, this should add sin, right? But what do you think is going to happen to the tau on the end of the stem? Well, if the delta off of pied and pod couldn't stand in front of the sin sound, then neither will the tau here. So you end up with onomasin, like so. Okay, you might want to now pause the video with that on screen and just commit that to memory. And then when you come back, I'll have some questions for you. Okay, so here are the questions. Just as before, you need to put in the article. Remember, it's neuter, so you need the neuter article. Put in the article and the correct form of onoma. And I will allow you to pause now, and I'll give you the answers when you come back. Okay, I learned the names of the soldiers. Now, these names are going to be accusative, aren't they? We're doing something to them. They're going to be accusative. So this is going to be ta onomata. So the whole thing, ta ton stratioton onomata gignosko. Okay, well done. Next one, the master writes the name. Hokurios. What case is this going to be? It's going to be accusative, isn't it? So it will be to onoma. Hokurios to onoma grape. And then finally, my name is Nobody. Now, you can tell this is an advanced video. You're doing Homer now. This is from book 9 of the Odyssey. My name is Nobody. Utis emoi now. This will be nominative because it's with the verb to be. So in fact, it will look just the same as the accusative from the previous sentence. Utis emoi agonoma. Okay. Some other really common neuter nouns that are just like onoma are soma, somatos, body, pragma, pragmatos, a thing often used in the plural to mean business, pneuma, pneumatos, wind, breath, or spirit. And you may already have seen that from these words we get psychosomatic, we get pragmatic, and we get pneumatic. So that should help you to remember all of those full stems. A bit like onoma is hudor, where we get hydro from. It's got the same type of stem, hudatos, and also puros, which has got the same endings, but notice it's one of those ones where the full stem is like the nominative. It's the same as the nominative singular, just as we saw with care in the masculine and feminine nouns. Okay, that's the end of the learning. This is just to make you aware. Once you've done this and you're on top of these, the next thing might be to look at these two nouns, which have got a slightly idiosyncratic pattern. They're very, very common words. And also to learn some modified patterns. And there's three really important ones. There's nouns which go like basileus, king. And if you learn the pattern of basileus, you'll know presbus and hippeus as well. Next, there's a whole bunch of feminine ones that go like polis. So if you learn polis, you'll also know pusis and dunamis. And then really important, to my mind, there's a whole load of neuter ones like genos. Now, just because it ends in os, don't think of these as like second declension ones like logos. In fact, they're neuter third declension nouns which just do the third declension thing. And if you learn the pattern for genos, you'll know pletos, eidos, patos, etos, telos, and another load of really, really common neuter nouns. Okay, so thank you very much for your participation in the summer school, albeit virtually. And if you want any more information, there is lots and lots to see on the website. Thank you very much.